Hi, today I'm reviewing one of my absolute favorite records, Steely Dan Countdown to Ecstasy. All right. First of all, I'm an enormous Steely Dan fan. This was the second album by Steely Dan. The band was still intact at that time. Of course, you had, I'm talking just some of the finest musicians, especially Jeff Skunk Baxter and Denny Diaz. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, but these guys are good, you know. But this album, I really feel like, is probably their most unique. Put it that way. Just as far as there's no album that I know of that sounds like this album from Steely Dan or from anyone else. It really is. It really that's the unique is the biggest word I can really stick on this record. I always thought the back cover was really cool too. You know, you got I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little hand of the engineer down there. So anyway, yeah, such a good record. Bodhisattva. If you know this album, you know what I'm talking about. Just starts off, first of all, those chords, there's something magical about the arrangement of this. And then all these interesting little musical tricks. I mean, and by tricks, I just mean stuff that you just haven't heard. For instance, at the very end of Bodhisattva, there's a piano sweep, and he keeps the pedal completely, down. So he's got this, so you have the entire piano resonating at one time as the last, takeout of that first tune on this album. And so, yeah, Bodhisattva, gonna sell my house in town. That was sort of the thing, follow the guru, and it was sort of that was sort of Steely Dan's attitude. They sort of saw the world as sort of hustlers and charlatans who were out to, make money off of you, that kind of a thing. Or, who is this gaucho amigo, that kind of thing. They always had that sort of sardonic, I guess might be the word, I'm not sure. Sarcastic for sure, but more of just what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of a biting quip sort of a thing. I'm not really sure how to explain it. But anyway, Bodhisattva. So yeah, and then gonna be there to shine in your Japan. Those chord changes right there are just so intense and so unique. Like I defy, before anyone tells you what those chords are, to figure that one out, especially when you're at my age, because I was bewildered. I mean, I ultimately did finally figure it out, of course, but and then of course you got Jeff Skunk Baxter, and that kind of, I guess they call it chicken picking or whatever, but what a fantastic, one of the most interesting guitar players. And yeah, this album combined, there's some rock in it, there's obviously a little jazz, but then there's this element of country, and almost there's a tune on here called Voulez-vous, Pearl of the Quarter, and of course the quarter being New Orleans and what have you, and it has a steel guitar on it. I think Skunk played that, and it just has a sound that I've never heard them tour this album. I've really never heard them play anything from it live, even online. I'm sure they probably have, but it might be because of one thing. I saw Steely Dan, and they were fantastic. Unfortunately for me, they kind of did every song exactly like the record, and that's like the Eagles. I saw the Eagles, same thing. It's there's no extended soloing, there's no improvisation. Everything is scripted down to the very note. And I can't remember the guitar player's name. He's a real, very excellent musician, but he looked so bored too. And that was the thing. But he was just up there just playing, Larry Carlton solos, note for note. And that's the thing that really kind of bugged me. And same with his vocal inflections. I did notice when they did the Northeast Corridor tour, he started changing up some of the vocals, and switching it up a bit, and I like that. You know, I like it when Peter Frampton took a 3 minute song, "Do You Feel Like We Do," and stretched it out for 15 minutes, and it was great. So, but this album is a mood record in a big way. So, my favorite song, "Razor Boy." That is probably my favorite Steely Dan song of all time, and I don't know why, but there's something really sublime about that melody and something about the imagery for me, you know. I guess only women in cages. I don't know, just interesting stuff. And smoking with the boys upstairs. So then we have the Boston Rag. Bring back the Boston Rag. Tell all your buddies that there ain't no drag. Not a whole lot to say on that, but things were different. You know, it was definitely more triads. You hadn't broken into too many of the mu chords, as they eventually were called, or say where you have a 1 with a 4 in the bass. You know, say a C triad in the right hand and an F in the left hand. If you're not a musician, don't worry about it. But anyway, it was definitely more rock and less jazz. They hadn't gone, you know, to the extent of Asia. And before Asia, before they got there, the album before that was totally, probably one of their most rocking records as far as just electric guitars, solos. There's much less saxophone, things like that. And that's the Royal Scam, which is another brilliant, another one of my favorites. I kind of like the rock side of Steely Dan. I think a little better than the jazz side. I mean, trust me, I love Asia. It's brilliant. I love all of their music, all of their music. I just love the way they write. I like almost everything about them. I like their attitude. All right. So you Gold Teeth, man. It's such a good song. Obviously, they did a second one on, I think the fourth album, Katie Lied. And Your Gold Teeth, it's got that dun, 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 dun. If you know the album, you know what I'm talking about. I had a feeling. Anyway, it's such a great record, man. And then it just kind of lays in this groove, this and then starts soloing, and the solo, and when it starts happening, there's all these little marimba kind of thing happening. It's just very dissonant, very cool, and that's what I really enjoy about this record. So that's clearly, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of their best songs, one of my favorites. And so anyway, side 2 here, we've got Showbiz Kids. Now, when I was young, and like I say, I was 9 years old, I got this album as one of my first in the Record Club of America. I don't know if you guys remember that, but yeah, like you actually took a physical penny and taped it onto this piece of paper and mailed it in, and you got 7 albums for a penny, right? And then, you know, the thing they didn't tell my dad was he was on the hook for the next year of, you know, the selection of the month. That went over really well. But anyway, yeah, Showbiz Kids, and it said the F word in there, right? So he does this little thing about whatever, don't give an F about anybody else. You know, their last wages. And I thought, being young, I had never heard like, oh, you know, wow, these guys are subversive, you know. When you're 9, that's what you think. But the only other time, actually, that I remember hearing the F word on a top 40, even on an album, honestly, and I'm talking about all of my albums until you got to the 80s, when it became a thing, you know, once you had the Tipper Gore labeling that says, yeah, now there's all kinds of whatever, bad words, curse words, whatever. Of course, then people started monetizing that by intentionally putting it there so they could get that labeling, because that's where the cool kids bought the dirty records, you know what I mean? That was kind of a thing for a certain amount of time. That was beyond my era, but back in my day, and if you're watching this, you're probably somewhere around my age. Yeah, we didn't, that was like taboo. We only had the three networks. We were still watching Andy Griffith Show, and it was like, if we had ever heard, Barney say the F word, I mean, we would have gone insane. It would have been, what? Or Marsha Brady. Can you imagine Greg going, fuck yeah, Marsha? Anyway, so, and then at the end of that, right in Showbiz Kids, right, there's this thing where he goes, I can't do it, but and it's so dissonant against he's kind of darned it, on it, on it, on it, on. If you know the album, you know what I'm talking about. It's a very weird kind of sound at the end, but it was just so like, what is that? But I thought it was so cool. And it is cool. It's very, very hip. Because they're actually like regular notes that when you listen to the album long enough, you can do what I just did. You can kind of sit there and sing those notes. But anyway, I always found that fun. My Old School, everybody knows this song, and it's a great song. I heard about the boys upstairs. So yeah, and I won't know Guadalajara won't do now. Dun, dun, I didn't think the girl could be so cruel. But it's got that solo when it goes, I'm never going back to my old school. Da, da, da. Got some horns in there. You're starting to see that Steely Dan horn section thing going on a little bit. But then that chicken picking thing have dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. So you have I don't know. It's very, very unique. That's my biggest take on this stuff is that it's just so unique, and I don't know any other song that sounds like that or even has that kind of style. It's just strange. Anyway, and then Pearl of the Quarter, man. That, like I say, that's one of the most beautiful songs. Voulez-vous, right? And steel guitar, nice steel solo in there, and it's just magnificent. That it just doesn't get any better. I mean, this, I'm telling you, this, sitting here talking to you about this right now, I'm realizing I think this is my absolute favorite Steely Dan album. And it might be because you know how music is. If you're in a good place when you listen to an album, you can be sort of taken back, teleported, so to speak, back to that time. And or if it's an album that you sort of discovered on your own, you have that sense of, wow, I was there at the time or whatever. But anyway, King of the World ends the album. And King of the World as far as I know. And then it's got that. I just did it. That was pretty good. You got to give me credit if you know the song. If you don't, I just sound like a lunatic. So anyway, so that's it, ladies and gentlemen. One of my favorites, Steely Dan. Countdown.